Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rangeless Travel Podcast. This is the next step on our Baja road trip series where we are taking you from San Ignacio, driving all the way down to the Bay of Conception. Welcome back to the Rangeless Travel Podcast. We're your favorite adventure travel hosts. I'm Britt, and this is Ryan. Together, we travel the world by plane, train, and 89 Ford Sportsmobile. Currently, we're traveling the U.S. in an old van with our two dogs, Layla and Cedar. Every Tuesday, we share stories and tips to inspire you to book that next trip. So go ahead and don't be shy. Follow along with us at Rangeless_ on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Let's dive in.
Now you're starting in San Ignacio, which is the beautiful desert oasis in the middle of Baja. And before you leave, I think the only thing you really need to get is fuel.
Yeah,
Pretty
just
much
fill up your gas tank like we start every episode in this series, is get gas.
Yeah, as far as everything else, you're going to be passing places that are much easier to get and probably going to be cheaper to get any supplies that you might need.
Yeah, it's no big deal the next few. You're going to pass multiple locations that you can resupply and do everything you need. So all you need to do is get up, pack up, fill up your gas tank, and hit the road.
Actually, the one thing you might want to do as well is to be dump. If you have a black tank that you want to dump, you could do that in your campground. There's one at Parisio Missional, which is where we stayed. They charge a little bit extra, but we actually didn't have anything in our black tank, so we didn't need to use it. But if you do, then
so you can dump if you have to.
Yeah, so now the drive from San Ignacio all the way to Baja de Conception is 158 kilometers, which is about 98 miles.
So it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. It's going to take you about 2.5 hours to get there. But on the way there, there's a couple of stops that are worth stopping at just for resupply and for just checking out in general. The first one is Santa Rosalia, which is a larger town.
Yeah.
And it has the big supermarket, which we talked about, where you could stop at and get groceries at. And that's only 76 kilometers, about an hour away from San Ignacio.
Or if you want to stop somewhere for lunch, that would probably be a good place to stop. When we drove through, we didn't really stop. We stopped and got fuel, so you can fill up there. There's also sometimes a propane-filled truck that's there.
Yes.
But it's sometimes not there. So if you see it and you need that, go for it. If you don't need it, don't worry about it. But there's a lot of restaurants and stuff. So if you wanted to stop for a quick bite to eat, that's probably a great place to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, don't worry about it. Keep going.
Yeah. And then the next place to stop will be Mulege, which is another hour down the road. So that's 138 kilometers from San Ignacio. And Mulege is a smaller town, but it does have like that fruit stand that you were talking about. So like you could stop there, get some fruit on the side of the road.
I wasn't talking about it, but I have talked about it.
You've mentioned it before.
I've mentioned it before. If you follow us on any of our other channels, at Rangeless_ or on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, I've already talked about this fruit stand that I literally fell in love with in Mulege. She's there. It's her and her husband. She's there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all day into the evening. And they just have a really nice selection at a really affordable price, and they're really nice. Like they gave us, like we went like multiple times. They like gave us a bunch of dates one day.
Yeah.
Like they were just like really, really nice.
It was nice. And Mulege is also one of the places where you can stop and get fuel too. So you're not going to be stopped for fuel. Stuck for fuel.
No, you're not going to be stuck for fuel. You also
on this drive. But before you leave Mulege, I would suggest filling your tank, because after Mulege, there is nowhere to get fuel until you get to Loreto, which is 2.5 hours from there.
Yeah, and you're probably going to stop in Bay of Conception, so it's going to be a while before you get them. So if you have jerry cans or anything, fill them in Mulege. Yeah. Now, Mulege is like the spot that a lot of people stop to refuel because it's a town that has everything, but it's just less congested and less built up than Santa Rosalia. So if you have like a bigger rig and you're trying to maneuver it through the streets, it's going to be a little bit easier.
If you have a bigger rig, I would suggest stopping at Mulege, but not driving into the town of Mulege. You stay on the main road, park up somewhere there, because those are tight
Yeah,
turns,
they're tight
and
turns.
people get stuck there all the time.
But Santa Rosalia is even tighter.
Yes, but you
So
could just stay on the main road.
yeah, but they're both going to be really tight turns. Okay, so now you've refueled in Mulege.
Yeah, this is the nice part of the drive now, like especially nice. It's where you're gonna first like get to see the ocean again, and you come
Yeah.
over the hill, and then there's the blue water in front of you, and it's like it's beautiful. There's no military checkpoints on this section of road, so you.
How was the road? It was
Pretty decent.
yeah, it wasn't
was like
bad.
typical
wasn't bad.
Baja road. It wasn't bad. It wasn't nearly the worst we've seen.
Being said, you are going to run into areas with potholes. You are going to be passing areas that have a very tight shoulder. You are going to be passing 18-wheelers that are going pretty fast. But for the most part, it was not too difficult of a drive. I did some of the drive.
You did some of the drive, yeah.
so
And it was an okay drive. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a couple of things that you might want to look at on the drive, like viewpoints. Is so like in Santa Rosalia, there's a church that was built by the guy who built the Eiffel Tower.
I know he has mentioned this to me.
But like I think
So
that's
many
just crazy.
times.
They moved it there.
So many times he's
They
talked
like
about
picked
this.
it up and put it there.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit wild.
He brought it up while we were there, and I was like, do you want to go see it? And he's like, no, I just think it's cool. Then we're in Mulege, and he's like, did you know? And I'm like, yes, you already told me when we were there. And he's like, I just think it's so cool. And I'm like, that's awesome. Then like again, probably like once a week for the past like 3 weeks, he's brought
I'll
up.
stop on my way back up north, but for now, it's not like, okay, here's the thing. If I find out about something before I've already passed, I'm not turning around.
No, I
Not
can't
turning
turn
around.
around. I can't turn around for anything. Like
No.
once I've driven past it,
Especially
that's
with the van. If I'm on the little motorbike, fine, I'll switch around, do whatever. But the van is so long and it's hard to see out of. And
It's
there's
not that
people-
long. What are we, 23 feet?
Yes. When was the last time you drove 23 feet and tried to do a 3-point turn and turn around
don't
with
like.
no backup sensors or no beepers and no cameras, nothing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like. I'm just saying.
It's not the easiest thing in the world.
So we couldn't go around and see the church that was built by the same guy that built the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. And then other landmarks and things that are cool to see would be in Mulege, there's the mission that looks over the river, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
There's the prison.
There's the prison.
That's now a museum, so you
Yeah.
can go there, and it doesn't cost anything to
Yeah,
go.
it's free to go in.
Yeah, and
That's
then
cool.
museum's interesting because, well, it used to be a prison,
Yeah.
but the prison people,
It had
the
no-
inmates, the prison people, the inmates didn't weren't locked up because Mulege was so secluded.
No, they only locked it at nighttime.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
more like they were in
So they were
timeout.
allowed to go out and work a job and go see their families during the day.
Yeah, and then they had to be
It's-
home by a certain time at the jail.
It's like curfew. Yeah.
because it was so isolated until the road was built in.
Yeah, in the 70s. So it didn't close down until the year before the road came in. Like that's when they closed it.
Yeah.
Before that, where are you going? You're in the desert. You're not making it far, you know? And then the other thing that's cool was the lighthouse out in Mulege too. That's cool to see.
Yeah, the lighthouse in
But
Mulege is also
other
cool.
than that, really, the like what you really want to see on this drive is where you're going, and that's Bay of Conception.
Yeah, and that's like the shot, like, you know, if you've watched any like people's TikToks or short form videos, and they always have those really pretty shots where they like come around a curve and there's like blue water.
Yeah.
That's Bay of Conception. That's
Yeah.
where those shots are being taken. Tooketh. It's been tooketh at the Bay of Conception, so that's what you're gonna see. So, and I feel like the Bay of Conception as well. Like I've heard it from multiple people when we've been driving now. They're like this is Baja.
Yeah.
Like this is what like now we feel like we're in like
Right.
Baja.
Well, I mean, we got there and we were already running low on propane because
Yeah.
we were in Mulege for a while and we didn't realize there was nowhere to fill up in Mulege. So it is what it is. But we stayed for as long as we could because we loved it so much. We were there almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the only reason we left was because we were out of propane and our fridge was going to stop working, so we had to leave. But it's really nice there.
It's beautiful.
There's a bunch of places, beaches to camp at. All of them are paid, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And if you stay for longer, you can make a deal with the guy.
So just that.
Yeah.
The only thing I would suggest that if you don't have something, I would suggest bring something to get out on the water in, because
Yeah.
thus far, like, it's kind of like, oh, it's nice to have a paddleboard. You should go paddleboarding. You should go kayaking. You should do these things. You're at the Bay of Conception now. Like, that is what you're there for. So if you're haven't left on your trip yet, definitely pick something up to go out in the water, and whether it's a kayak, an inflatable paddleboard, something. You're gonna want to get out on the water. Bring something for your own good. You're gonna want to. But if you are already here and you haven't have something to go out on the water in, when you're in Mulege, they have like Amazon return stores. So they have these small shops in town. They have like multiple in town. I went in a few of them just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And they have like, I think they buy like the return pallets, and then their entire store is selling them. And I saw like multiple like tubes and different like little like flotation toy things. But like even something like that just to like get out and like float around on. Also, the water is going to be kind of cold, and in Mulege, they did have multiple little side of the road things selling wetsuits and different things like that. So, if you're in need of something like that, again, that might be a good place to
try and find
see if you can find any of those things you need. Because once you get out to the Bay of Conception, there's not going to be
a lot of resources. So there's not going to be. There will be guys that will come around and offer to rent you a kayak, though.
Yeah, there'll be guys who will rent you a kayak. There will be people who will, like, that are going to have drinking water you can get. There'll be people selling produce. There will be people selling souvenirs. There will be people selling all kinds of things.
Yeah.
The vendors will come around every day. But you're just going to want to stock up that so that you can be as self-sufficient as you can, because you will be just having...
You're just going to be out there.
Yeah.
Like, you know... It's not like you can I mean, it's only 30 minutes back to Mulege again, so like
I mean, depending on where you are on Bay of Conception.
Yes.
Where we were, because we just...
So we stayed at Los Cocos Beach, which is close to Santisbec, and it's close to Nomadico.
But we're going to do an entire episode on just the Bay of Conception that will break down the different beaches, what to expect at the different beaches, what exactly to expect and how to prepare to be there. So that's going to be all broken down in that episode. This episode, we're focused more on the drive.
As far as the drive goes, just make sure you stock up on anything you might need in Mulege or Santa Rosalia before you get down there. But the drive is pretty easy. There's like a climb up, and then it will like shoot down into the bay, but it's nothing crazy. And
oh yeah, our friends were talking about it because it was quite windy, and they were like in a school bus.
A full-length school bus. Yeah. That's a different story. But if you're in a van, it's really not.
Yeah, but we don't know what you drive.
Exactly.
So that would be something to consider on that drive in, is to take a peek at the weather, to see if it's going to be real windy or not. But if you're driving, if you have a schoolie, you probably already know to do that. But just in case you're new to this, take a look at the weather, because there are a few like winding curves, but nothing like crazy.
Our drive was pretty nice. I mean,
yeah, our drive was uneventful.
It was, and we didn't even leave out super early because we'd been staying in Mulege for a few days.
Yeah, so like we broke it up into multiple drives, which you can absolutely do, but it's so uneventful. We were like, we can't do 2 episodes on the drives because Mulege to Bay of Conception is literally like 20 minutes. Yeah. It's nothing. I drove back to town a couple times on the motorbike while we were camped out. Like, it's literally nothing at all. And the drive from San Ignacio to Mulege is also like nothing. Like, it's not a big deal. So you don't even have to do the whole drive in one day if you don't want to. You can absolutely stay in Mulege, and we will do an entire episode on Mulege in case that's what you decide you want to do. And that's what we did, because we enjoy being in little towns, and like the walkability of them, and how it gives us each like our own freedom. And because when you have a van and you're living with your partner in a van all the time, you guys have to, like, we love doing everything together, but like you have no choice but to do everything together. And like sometimes, like, no offense, like I like to go do things by myself, and I know sometimes you like to go do yourself. So we just opt to stay in the little towns when we can, because one of us can just like walk to town and the other one can take the motorbike somewhere, or someone can like be here and there, and we can be on our own time limits rather than like always having to communicate like every time limit and every detail of the plan and what the other person wants to do. So it just kind of works for us that way. So yeah, we're just gonna do their own episode on Mulege and Bay of Conception. So make sure to like, subscribe, because you're not gonna want to miss it. It's good. It's gonna be good episodes. We're gonna break it down for you more.
Yeah.
But the drive itself is so uneventful. Like literally, don't think about it too much. Check the weather. See what you're going in for. It's gonna be a couple hours at most if you're going from San Ignacio all the way to Bay of Conception. We suggest you stop in Mulege and enjoy it.
Yeah. I would definitely suggest it for at least one day.
Yeah, it's really not. These aren't these big drives. Like,
No.
don't overthink having to drive through Baja. I think we get a lot of scary
Apprehension,
things.
yeah.
Like scary things thrown at us. Like Mulege is known as like the safest town in Baja.
I think it might be all of Mexico.
Like it might
Like,
be.
yeah,
Like
it
it
might
is. Just don't worry.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of us, because we're going to be driving in a new country, can get a little worried, or we're driving solo and there's some scary stories that come out. But just use your brain, trust your gut. Today's drive is going to be no big deal. You're going to have no military checkpoints. You're going to drive the speed limit. The roads aren't super crazy, so it's going to be fine on your suspension, your tires, and your alignment.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah, so if you want more from us, you can follow us at Rangeless _ on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and of course on YouTube.
And until next week.
Bye.
Bye.